Okay, welcome to the rest of the news. Our special guest today, Brother Dan Bosman and Brother John Brewer. Boy, both of them are pastors. And our other special guest is Cindy Marlowe. Hi, Cindy.
Hey, Dr. Fung.
We got a big program here. Let's see if we can play something here that's really important.
I am holding in my hand the Muslim Brotherhood plan for the destruction of the United States, written 5/22/1991. They talk about the settlement in the United States, understanding the role of the Muslim brother in North America. The process of settlement is a civilization jihadist process.
Let me say a few words of explanation. This is Bridget Gabriel. She is talking about something she's holding in her hand, which is a description written by the Muslim Brotherhood about what the Muslims are doing in America today. And this was confiscated from the Muslim Brotherhood 5 or 10 years ago or so. And it tells what their plan is for America and how they're trying to destroy America from the inside.
During the part where they were unindicted co-conspirator or something like that?
She's basically reading from the Muslim Brotherhood's own documents saying that they're here to destroy America from the inside. So let's see what she has to say.
With all the word means. The Akhwan, which is the Arabic word for brothers, must understand that their work in America is a kind of grand jihad in eliminating and destroying the Western civilization from within and sabotaging its miserable house by their hands and the hands of the believers so that it is eliminated and Allah's religion is made victorious over all other religions. Is this clear? They don't mince words, do they? But the most important page of this document is the last page. Because in the last page, they list 29 front Islamic organizations set up in the United States with the specific goal of sabotaging America from within and destroying America by our own hands. And I'm just going to name a few. Number one on the list is ISNA, Islamic Society of North America. And if you're familiar with ISNA, it's because they are now advisors to President Obama about Middle East policy.
Assalamu alaikum. Congratulations to Imam Magid, everyone at the Islamic Society of North America.
Boy, I think we ought to talk about that just a minute. President Obama not only let the Muslim Brotherhood as an advisor, but he was also letting them in the White House to run certain sections of the country. What do you have to say?
Just compare it to the administration now that the Democrats are saying that Trump is trying to ruin America. They didn't say one word when they have a list of the people that signed into the White House for advisement to the president. They didn't say anything when Obama had these type of people, but yet they're out to destroy Trump. That's the point I'm trying to make.
And none of this gets on the news.
Very little.
Very little. If it gets on the news, it's kind of obscured. But this is Mrs. Gabriel. She is reading from the Muslims' own papers, saying what they're trying to do. This is the speech she gave in Washington, I think a couple of years ago. And she's talking about when Obama was still in the White House.
We not only have the fox watching the hen house, we have the fox inside the White House dictating policy in the ear of the president. Number two on the list is the MSA, the Muslim Student Association. The Muslim Student Association has more chapters on American college campuses than the Democrats and the Republicans combined.
Now, that's a mouthful too, isn't it? Now, of course, these universities are paid for by you and me to a large extent. We have tax money goes to these universities, and they are allowing chapters of the Muslim Brotherhood in lots and lots of universities so that they can indoctrinate your children and mine into the Islam worldview. That's kind of amazing, isn't it?
They're hating America. Hate America, and it's kind of interesting. You talk to the younger generation, they're busy with their homes, their families, their kids. we have to stand up now. We can't wait till they get my age and we're gone. They don't realize the threat that we're under. They will prevail, the other side. And then the other side has more chapters than we do in the colleges. That kind of shows you where the heart is.
It seems to me that she's saying Obama was more or less pushing the Muslim lifestyle and getting them into our universities to indoctrinate our children. Of course, children are much easier to indoctrinate than adults because they haven't been around long enough to know all the story. So it's pretty amazing. Let's see what else she has to say.
Number 8 on the list is NATE, the North American Islamic Trust. The North American Islamic Trust owns the deed to over 90% of American mosques in the United States. That is a problem. They set up every organizations in this plan to destroy America, focusing on every sector of our society. Organizations focused on publishing, organization focused on media, organization focused on education with the strict purpose of doing sabotage to America from within.
She is talking about how the Muslims are coming into America. Obama went out of his way to bring in lots of Muslims on airplanes in the middle of the night, let them out in an airport, and they would go up to Michigan or someplace where they've got no-go zones.
In Dearborn,
yeah. Now, these mosques that she's talking about, they are kind of terrorist centers, I would say. And they're teaching the people in these mosques how to blow something up, how to kill people, how to start a riot. Under Obama, no one was allowed to infiltrate these mosques and find out what they're doing in there. But they're not just praying or washing their hands. They were training people to sabotage the United States in the mosque. That was one of the main things that they were doing in there. I guess that was about the end of it. But Saudi Arabia paid for a lot of these mosques, setting them up, and then they would promote terror within the mosque. And no one would go in there because oh no, it's freedom of religion. We can do whatever we want. So they would continue to plan suicide bombings and all kinds of terrorist activities in the mosques. How many, she said? Thousands and thousands of mosques that are being set up all around in the United States.
And did you hear what she said? That 90% of them were owned. They actually owned them. They didn't just rent them.
So this is what we're up against now. There are a few letters. This was a letter from Jay Sekulow in the ACLJ, American Center for Law and Justice. He's talking about the abortion issue, and he's saying that they got a ruling that a state did not have to give money to Planned Parenthood. If they didn't want to, they wouldn't have to. Then Obama's judges, or the left-wing judges, saying, oh, no, you have to give that money. They said that to one state, but they also said this is a national ruling. You have to pay taxpayer money to Planned Parenthood. It says now 3 federal judges have sided with abortion providers. Let's see, that's even more shocking that the second judge issued a nationwide injunction blocking the defunding everywhere. Planned Parenthood takes the lives of more than 900 babies every single day. Every single day. Every single day. They take 1.5 million taxpayer funds every single day. So you go to your job, you get a salary. Well, the government takes a big chunk of that salary and gives it to Planned Parenthood because they have got their foot in the door.
Well, let's interject something here. Guys, help me out. Think about it. They demand that we pay money to kill little babies that we know is precious in the sight of the Lord, yet they don't want us to speak about God or Jesus in the institutions like the colleges and universities. This has got to stop. Got to do something because that is appalling to me and it makes me very upset. It should make every Christian and Jewish person in America upset.
The other thing is Why is there opposition to Planned Parenthood? I think a lot of it is because the president has come down on the side of life.
Very boldly.
We have to support that president because you're supporting the pro-life movement. And you look at the Catholics, how the government is against Catholics. Here it says 20 liberal pro-abortion states have joined Planned Parenthood in filing suit. A federal judge has blocked the ruling nationwide. House Democrats are working feverishly to overturn the HHS, Health and Human Service rule, which is that you don't have to pay Planned Parenthood if you don't want to. The Supreme Court of the United States is going to have to rule on this.
And John and Dan, and especially John, you're constitutional learned like I am. Aren't the states sovereign? Is the libertarians vote and scream all the time? Aren't we supposed to decide issues on our own, each state separately?
Yeah.
They're saying they're going to mandate that we have to pay taxpayer funds to Planned Parenthood. That's not how the Constitution's set up.
In theory, that's correct. Although the 9th and 10th Amendments of the U.S. Constitution have largely been ignored and defanged. They don't have any teeth.
And the federal government is expanding abroad, and
It continues to expand.
Like an octopus, it just keeps growing and growing and sucking up the rights of the people, which is supposed to be for the state to decide an issue.
There's been a lot, like in Kentucky, they passed a heartbeat bill that says if the heart is beating, you can't pull the arms and legs off of that baby. It's all going to come up to the Supreme Court. That's why it's so important. The Supreme Court is important because when push comes to shove, the Supreme Court is going to decide a lot of this. Now, this is another letter. It's called In God We Trust. And he says the atheists are going on the offense. The atheists in America are going on the offense. Groups like the Atheist Empire and the Atheist Alliance International, they are putting ads on buses with things like this, quote, "There's probably no God. Now stop worrying and enjoy your life," close quote. That's going on the buses. Here's another one, quote, "You can be good without God," close quote.
That pretty much contradicts Scripture.
See, he says there's no God. If you look up in the sky at night, you see all these stars and planets and everything. And they're going to say, that just evolved all by itself with no God, no purpose, no meaning. It just came there out of nowhere all by itself. I was looking at a movie recently by Ken Ham, and he says the presence of DNA is a code that tells you how to build a human being, how to build an elephant, how to build whatever you want to build in the way of animal. And he's saying that it's like a rope with ... dash, dot. That doesn't mean a thing unless you know the code. And then if you know the code, you can make some sense out of these dots and dashes. Well, in DNA, the interpretation of the code is written in the code itself. So he's saying that proves beyond any shadow of a doubt that matter or nature by itself could not invent that blueprint for a human being. And it could not have made up that code and could not have put that code together, that there had to be some intelligent source of intelligence that made up the code, made up the language, made up the DNA, and the presence of the DNA code proves that there is a God.
And it does. It's so improbable that I have often heard quoted, and I believe it's almost true, that it takes more faith to be an atheist than it does to be a believer.
To believe, yes.
To say that nature or dirt or rocks made up DNA all by themselves with no intelligence, no guidance, no nothing. That takes a lot of faith.
And we know they're not intelligent. Rocks and matter aren't.
But they impart intelligence to the DNA. See, that doesn't make sense.
Exactly.
intelligence is coming from someplace with no intelligence, like Iraq. He says these signs that they're putting on buses are part of a well-orchestrated campaign to end Christianity in America. In other words, here's George Soros. He doesn't believe in God, and he's going to pay for these signs so that they can get rid of God. And he knows that he wants a one-world socialist world government in America, so he's trying to push that, puts billions of dollars in. Here is a quote from the governor of New York. His name is Andrew Cuomo, and he says, "We are not going to make America great again. We're not," he says. "It was never that great." So he's trying to say...
Well, let's interject Dan over there. He comes from a country with a lot of problems. Dan, what do you think about that kind of statement?
That's the way the socialists talk. In South Africa, they have the same type of rhetoric. It hasn't changed. It's the same all over the world.
Now, here is a statement from Keith Ellison, who was the deputy chairman of the Democrat National Committee.
Who's Islamic, too. He's Islam.
And he's now the attorney general in Minnesota. And he says, "I don't believe in borders." He doesn't want any borders.
And yet, I bet he has a fence or a wall or something, and he locks his doors at night.
Now, here's a quote from Chuck Schumer, who's the top Democrat in the U.S. Senate. The party, meaning the Democrat Party, is strongly pro-choice. Here's another one. This is another statement by Keith Ellison, deputy chairman of the Democrat National Committee, says, "If you're pro-life, you are not welcome in the Democrat Party. You're not welcome in the Democrat Party."
And neither was God a few years ago during their Democratic.
Oh, yeah, they tried to remove God.
I saw that on TV because I normally don't watch it, but I thought, I'm going to watch it this year. I was just appalled. I thought, we've got
a copy of that
They
movie.
moved God out. But then they put him back in.
They knew they had to.
Yeah.
Now, here's a quote from President Obama. He said, "The U.S. Constitution has deep flaws," F-L-A-W-S, and added that America's founding fathers had, quote, "an enormous blind spot." Obama said our Constitution reflected the fundamental flaw of this country that continues to this day. That's a quote from Obama. Obama said that he was going to fundamentally transform America. Didn't he say that?
Yes, he did.
And here's another. Some liberals are now calling open borders a human right. The stakes in 2020 could not be bigger. 2020 will be a choice between having a country and having no country.
I wonder how many other countries in the world have that attitude. Some of the most dictatorial, North Korea, just try to get in, or to try to get over to Mexico. Mexico
has borders.
You can't go up to Canada and go right on that cruise like Days Cruise. You can't. You have to have a passport to go over.
Exactly.
Here is a statement by Senator Durbin, and they were considering a vote on putting somebody in the Supreme Court. He asked this woman, "Are you an Orthodox Catholic?" He wasn't going to let this lady be a judge. Senator Durbin's sarcastic tone made it clear that he believes Amy Barrett's Catholic faith disqualified her from being a federal judge. They don't like Catholics, the Democrat Party.
I have a lot of friends who are Democratic. And one of the things that we all tend to vote for is we all tend to vote for things that benefit ourselves. If we're going to see God's will be done in this country, sometimes we're going to have to vote for things or persons that don't necessarily benefit us, but they are God's. And that overtakes and should be overtaking any thought of what's good for me.
Exactly what's going on in America. They have dumb down the children. They have no incentives. The kids now are staying home as late as 28 to 30 with their parents, taking 6 years to complete degrees. It's all about the me mentality of what I can have. I want this free. We were just talking about this on the way over here. Me and Zach, free education, free this, free that. My parents and my grandparents, my grandfather lost his little grocery store in Shelby County. He lost it twice due to fire. They didn't have insurance back then. What did he do? Pulled up his bootstraps and he did it all over again.
God bless him. All right, now here's a quote from Hillary Clinton. Laws have to be backed up with resources and political will. The deep-seated religious beliefs have to be changed.
It's a scary thought coming from a woman.
Here is Hillary Clinton says, your religious beliefs are going to have to change. If you're not lined up with me, then you're going to have to change. Like if you're pro-life, you're going to have to change. Here's a quote from Barack Obama. He openly mocked the Bible and rural America when he said, quote, it's not surprising that they get bitter and cling to guns or religion or antipathy to people who aren't like them or anti-immigrant or anti-trade sentiment as a way to explain their frustrations. His Justice Department actually sued the Little Sisters of the Poor, which are Catholic nuns, in order to force them to purchase health insurance that includes coverage for abortion.
And same way with Hobby Lobby. Great big lawsuit in Hobby Lobby. Thank God won. They didn't have to provide that in the insurance to their people. They had a right as a business to decide that, what kind of insurance they provided.
We're about out of time. The Democrat Party is the party of no borders for America. The Democrat Party now openly says it wants to replace capitalism with socialism. They openly say that. There's a simple answer to all these problems, and here it is, Jesus. Now, these are free. So if you want one of these, this is the name that opens prison doors, sets the captives free. If you want one of these, you call us at 895-5025. Call us right now, and we'll send you this. We'll try to send you enough for everybody in your church. Oh, let me just say one other thing. See this video? This is the Jesus video. It's the birth, miracles, the crucifixion, the resurrection, and an invitation. This is a tremendous answer to all of these problems we're talking about. We need Jesus. So give us a call, 895-5025, and we'll get you the bumper sticker and the Jesus movie. God bless you, and tune in again next week for the rest of the news. Hello, this is Frank Simon with the rest of the news, and we have a very special program today with the activist mommy, who is Elizabeth Johnston. Other special guest is Rhonda Palazzo.
Hello.
So we have the activist mommy on the phone. Are you there?
Yes, thanks for having me.
You're going to be on the pro-life banquet, which is August 24th, which is a Saturday, I believe. So we wanted to play just her video and see. This is the video of you on Fox News and Friends.
She is known as the activist mommy with more than 70 million video views on social media. Just admit that you are a liberal media platform and that you are going to discriminate against conservatives and Christians on behalf of normal women everywhere. I want to say that was not our march. Welcome to 2019, where we don't just have legal abortion, we brag about it. We are in a rapid tailspin of moral decline.
Well, now she has a new book, Not on My Watch, How to Win the Fight for Family, Faith, and Freedom to help you stand up for your views. Author and vlogger Elizabeth Johnston joins us right now. Thank you for coming in.
Thank you so much for having me. Nice to meet you.
Talk to us about what you do. People aren't familiar with the activist mommy. What do you do?
I am a very ordinary homeschooling mom with 10 children. And
Love it.
10 children? Yeah.
Love it.
Yes.
Woo.
And a couple of years ago, I filmed my first video actually when Obama issued his transgender bathroom directive. I was very concerned about the nation that my children and future grandchildren would be growing up in. And 70 million video views later, lo and behold, there was a hunger in our culture for a bold answer to the moral and social issues of the day.
You're tackling issues that every mother's dealing with their kids. My wife, my daughters, I have 2 teenage daughters, trying to deal these difficult subjects to approach. Let's dive right into them. Late-term abortion law, states pushing that.
Absolutely. When Cuomo and the radical feminists just signed, and not only signed, but celebrated like they had won a Super Bowl game, the murder of children up until 40 weeks and possibly after, the nation has been reeling ever since. And my inboxes have all been slammed with people saying, I'm done with being on the sidelines. Help me to get on the front lines of this issue.
We have the video of you on Fox and Friends. I guess it was a while back.
Yes, that was in February when my book, Not on My Watch, A Great Time at Fox and Friends. They were very, very, very kind and hospitable and very like-minded.
That is great. That is great. Well, we wanted to ask you, how did you ever get started as an activist?
This was never planned. Never planned on being a public figure, public speaker. I was a diaper bag carrying mom for 20 years, still am. I have 10 children. My youngest is 3 years old and my oldest is 20. I'm a homeschooling mother. And really what happened was a couple of things. One, I closely watched the situation with the county clerk, Kim Davis, when she refused to sign the same-sex marriage license. I was very concerned about the direction our country was going. As a Christian, you could not exercise your conscience in this nation and not be locked up in jail, which is what happened to Kim. I took my children, my 10th was in the womb at that point, to Kentucky for 3 weeks to rally the people on behalf of Kim Davis. Again, I was just a homeschooling mom. I was not the activist mommy at this point. I began to see during that period that if our nation was not going to be completely swallowed up by radical social Marxists, that it was going to take just ordinary moms and dads like me and you to get off of the sidelines, off of the bench, and onto the front lines of culture war. So that happened when Obama issued his transgender bathroom directive. I just did not recognize my country any longer when I knew that 200-pound men could falsely claim that they are females, be allowed by law to be in our children's, my daughter's shower rooms and locker rooms and bathrooms. This insanity was just so tyrannical, so frightening that, again, it just catapulted me off of my easy chair. And I filmed my first video about the transgender bathroom situation and just didn't know if anybody would watch it or pay attention. And 70 million video views later,
70 million. Wow.
Yes, sir. There was a real hunger in our culture for a bold response, not just to the political issues of the day, but to the social and moral issues of the day, which is what is really my focus.